The college football experience week 4 deep dive episode on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now and use the promo code SGP. New customers can score $200 in bonus bets instantly when they bet just $5 on football. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with the promo code SGP. We're also brought to you by Game Time. Yes, snag the tickets without the stress. Use the promo code CFBX on your first purchase to save $20. Download the Game Time app. Use that promo code CFBX for $20 off. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Play the underdog pick 'em in college or NFL and win up to 20 times the amount of money you enter in one game. Use the promo code SGPN at Underdog Fantasy for 100% deposit bonus. And finally, we're brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting research platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com. Use that promo code SGPN to get 50% off your first month and start making smarter bets today, people.
This is Jim Mora, and you're listening to SGPN. Let it ride.
Yes, yes, yes. Woo! Welcome to the college football experience. Week 4. Deep dive. Look, sometimes you gotta deep dive. You know, we don't snorkel. All right, we deep dive here. As I smash the college football season with our coverage, with our coverage. You know, I mean, I'm trying to find the one song that a long time ago we were using regarding the snorkelers out there. But no, this is an episode dedicated to shit that pretty much I feel college football is supremely undercovered, and we're gonna look at some of the better games from the point of not being covered, in my opinion. If I can speak of the English, it would help. But look, folks, I mean, we got a pretty fire card for big time matchups. I'm not even talking about the big. Obviously, look, I'm delighted to see Ohio State at Notre Dame. Love the fact it's not a this is not a neutral site game. It's actually at the Golden Dome. And I did make a mistake on the SGP show, forgetting that Notre Dame got rid of their tall grass and moved to that bullshit turf about a while back. But I'm talking about the other matchups. You know, Oregon State, Washington State, where I believe College Game Day should be at. And then the Group of 5. There's a lot of big time Group of 5 matchups against the Group of 5 matchups. There's also a Group of 5 against Power 5. There's also a couple FCS against Group of 5 that are interesting, intriguing to me. So this is what we're doing here. We're covering it all, buddy. But you're probably wondering just who the hell you're listening to, because I can't find this song. My name is Kobe Swigga Dan, aka Pick Dundee. That's not a pick. This is a pick.
He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits.
When Dundee happened, he was a superstar.
And you're nothing but a chameleon, lemon-headed, coward, terrorist pussy. And I'm after you, buddy. You're going to pay for it. Good night.
Shout out to the chat. We're talking fun here. Let's go. It's a beautiful day to be alive. Shout out to Deion Sanders, who basically told people to fuck off because that might have been a dirty hit. It might not have been. Don't worry about it. This is football. Move along. People call it for Colorado State's safety to get his scholarship revoked. What the fuck? We lost our fucking minds. Social media is the worst. But give me a follow at the Colby D and TCE on SGPN. Let's go. Look, there's a bunch that I want to talk about. Bunch of matchups that I want to talk about, and I will lead off with a Thursday night game that I think, you have the conference. Conference USA, the Sun Belt race, essentially kind of kicking off. You saw it last week when James Madison went to Troy and got a huge win, and JMU continues to just be super impressive in the FBS. They have a big game this week. That's a non-con matchup against another group of 5 that we'll talk about in a bit. But Thursday night, you got Georgia State against Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina's laying 7 points, Brooks Stadium. So both these teams kind of making me look like a little bit of a fool. I guess Coastal's 2-1, but they beat Jacksonville State better than I thought they would beat Jacksonville State. And they beat Duquesne by more than I thought they would beat Duquesne. So in my opinion, Coastal Carolina has looked better than I thought they would look under new head coach Tim Beck, who I was a huge skeptic of that hire. And on the other side, I am a Sean Elliott fan, the head coach of Georgia State, former App State guy. He was assistant on that team that beat Michigan. But I kind of thought they had underachieved the past 2 years, and I felt like the program was falling apart a little bit. Jamari Thrash, their top wideout, transfers to Louisville, and the year before, their best defensive player goes to South Carolina, and I just felt like they were losing steam, and I thought that job could be open after the end of the year. Not that I wanted it, but I'm saying, like, I thought if I was forecasting what jobs could be open, which we have to do here, or try to do here, that was one that I really thought was in consideration. But Georgia State has surprised me this year. Despite all those losses, they survived the Rhode Island game, which is a very good FCS. Kudos for them even scheduling that game. Week 1, Kasim Hill, a former Maryland quarterback, is at Rhode Island. They pushed them to the brink. And then after that, what does Georgia State do? They beat the piss out of UConn in a game that I thought UConn was going to win. 35-14. I don't care that they knocked out UConn starting quarterback for the season. Doesn't matter. That's a great win for the program that I did not see coming. And I even thought Charlotte was going to give them a hard time because Charlotte beat them last year. They beat Charlotte by double digits. They beat UConn by double digits. So they're sitting there at 3-0. I did not have them at 3-0, and all of a sudden this game is a lot more bigger than I thought it was, essentially because you had the fact that App State still looks like, to me, I called for App State to win the Sun Belt East. App State very easily could be undefeated. They beat Gardner Webb. They lose in overtime to North Carolina. They beat East Carolina. But Marshall doesn't look as good as I thought they would. Now Marshall still is solid. It wouldn't shock me if Marshall ended up there. JMU can play for a Sun Belt title this year, I think, or no? No, they cannot. So JMU is not eligible. They can make a bowl this year though. So you have an intriguing, and Old Dominion's better than what I thought. Sun Belt East is better than what I thought, essentially is what I'm saying. Georgia Southern, I also think will be in the mix. And the Sun Belt West, Troy, not as good as I thought. South Alabama, obviously, still the favorite to me. I had South Alabama and App State playing in the Sun Belt Championship, but Southern Miss I thought would look a little bit better. Not true, not thus far. Louisiana, kind of what I thought. ULM looks a little bit better than I thought, and Arkansas State looked like how I projected. Actually, I would even say ULM's kind of what I projected, because I had them beating Army and I had them beating Lamar and losing to A&M. So, but my point is this is a gigantic game in the Sun Belt East Thursday, because I think both of these teams are suddenly contenders. Darren Granger, the former Pacer, the quarterbacks in this matchup. First off, this is the 7th all-time matchup, I believe, and the home team has never won, which is fascinating to me. Absolutely fascinating. And some of these ones, I believe, I'm going to quickly pull this up from yesterday's stuff here, but Some of these have been ass whoopings. So first off, from a betting standpoint, I think you have to take the points based on the success that Georgia State has had at Brooks Stadium, and Sean Elliott's had on the road taking on the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. But yeah, so look, just so you folks know, this is the history of these teams squaring off. The first ever match. Remember, Georgia State started their program just a little bit over a decade ago. They didn't even have a football program before. Coastal was an FCS that jumped up. So their first ever game was 2017. Conway, South Carolina. Georgia State wins 27-21. Then you had 2018 Coastal go to at that point, I think they were playing in the Falcons Stadium, which was terrible. 37-34, they win on the road. Then in 19, Georgia State comes back to Conway, South Carolina. This one I believe was under Sean Elliott. I don't think he was there in 17. And wins 31-21, double digit win on the road, Brooks Stadium. And then the very next year, COVID year, Coastal goes into Georgia State and wins 51-0. True ass whooping. Then in 2021, Grayson McCall, Big Bird, Coastal looking fantastic. A lot of hype about him. One of their only blemishes on the schedule was when Georgia State came to Conway, South Carolina, and won 42-40 in a barn burner. And then last year, Coastal comes to Center Park Stadium, where Terry Pendleton used to hit dingers, and wins by 17. So I mean, the road teams have been. Most of these games have been, 3 of the last 4 have been by double digits. You got to take the 7 points. And in general, the matchup is I think very there's similarities here in a way. Yes, you have a brand new coaching matchup, Tim Beck against Sean Elliott, which we've never seen, right? But Grayson McCall, who's been one of the better quarterbacks in the country, let alone one of the top group of 5 quarterbacks. I think if you were to ask random college football fans who are the best top group of 5 quarterbacks, he would be on a list of 3. I think they would say Frank Harris, Michael Pratt, and Grayson McCall, and they might even say McCall first. But he has looked the part. I worried about him under Tim Beck's new offense, but at NC State, Tim Beck and them very conservative, but they kept it within 14, actually covered the number at the Rose Bowl against UCLA. They opened it up late against Jacksonville State. And McCall threw for 268. He was 21 of 29, didn't turn the ball over. And then, the Duquesne game, which is it's Duquesne, so you can't take too much, but I still thought, they were up 45-0 at halftime, and McCall was looking the part, 12 of 16, 169, 2 touchdowns. And then they relieved him of his duty. But then you have Georgia State, who's been just a pleasant surprise with Darren Granger. Granger's a stud. He's a stud, especially this year. You're really seeing the growth from him. He has yet to throw an interception. He's completing 73, almost 74% of his passes for 10.2 yards of completion, meaning they're stretching the ball down the field. And to me, Georgia State's played, I know they haven't had the Power 5 like the UCLA cross country, but Jacksonville State was an FCS school a year ago. And Duquesne was an FCS school. They're the 2 games for Coastal. Whereas Georgia State's played Rhode Island, who was a playoff team in the FCS a year ago. Then UConn and Charlotte, 2 Power 5. So in a way, I kind of feel like they've had 3 better tests than Coastal Carolina. But Granger, 10.2 yards of completion, 6 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He's only been sacked 3 times. And he's also has 216 yards on the ground, 6.4 yards a rush, 2 touchdowns. He is getting it done. I also like Marcus Carroll, their running back, and their Robert Lewis has kind of stepped up to fill in for Jamari Thrash. So I love them getting 7 points on the road. Their kicker's been perfect as well, and the defense has actually probably been the weaker part of the team, which is different. I feel like historically, under Elliott coach teams, it's kind of been the strong suit. I feel like the defense has been solid, but it's definitely had its moments where I feel like Rhode Island was zipping the ball down the field. Now, they've gotten a lot better since then, but I think you gotta take the points here. And then on the other side of the ball, Beck's got Coastal playing better. Like I said, McCall's playing good. They obviously have a great. I love their receivers. They have the former Georgia State wideout Sam Pinckney, and I think his brother plays for the team too, and Jared Brown at the other wide receiver spot. I think it's a big time matchup, and I think Georgia State covers. I think they're live. I think it's a great game for a Thursday night. I know everyone's going to be watching the NFL game, but this game is better. This game is fucking better. So wanted to start things off there with the bang. I think you take the points, sprinkle a little bit on that money line, and I'm fascinated to watch this matchup because both teams better than what I thought they would be heading into week 4. Friday. I'm not going to talk Wisconsin Purdue because we're going to talk about that tomorrow. Not going to talk about NC State Virginia because we're going to talk about that the Brennan Armstrong Bowl. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. I want to talk Air Force heading into San Jose State or San Jose, California. San Jose State is 1-3, but man, they covered for us at Toledo. Remember, Toledo won the MAC a year ago, and I think them or Ohio will be winning the MAC this year. They've played good teams, like very good teams. Like obviously Toledo, I think will be a double-digit win team probably in the MAC. Should have beat Illinois week 1. Oregon State was it? So their 3 losses, if you looked at it from a year ago standpoint, were all double-digit win teams. San Jose State's lost to USC week 0, Oregon State week 1, and then Toledo week 3. They beat Cal Poly by 56 in FCS in week 2. I think San Jose State's probably better than what people realize. I know they did lose their star wideout Justin Lockhart for the season. That's not good, but I think this game's super fascinating because Air Force has been better than what I thought. Troy, after talking to Troy Calhoun at Mountain West Media Day, I was convinced that Air Force was due for regression. If you go back and listen to our Air Force preview, shout out to Rick Baum back in early June, because A comes, alphabetically before everybody else. And I was kind of thinking, Air Force will be fine. They'll hit the over. But then after talking to Calhoun, I think he got me. I'm new to this because I was buying in on them they lost to Zeke Daniels. They lost Brad Roberts. They lost some key pieces on the defensive side of the ball. Remember, they were a top 10 defense a year ago. So I was convinced regression was happening. No, they looked the part. They beat the shit out of Utah State last week in the game. I had some heavy money on the Aggies. But you look at this game and, let's just look at the Mountain West in general. I think everyone had Boise, Fresno playing in the Mountain West Championship. Fresno looks the part. They're 3-0, 2 Power 5 wins on the road. They also survived a win against a good FCS in Eastern Washington. Boise, though, has some issues. They've got Halani's been knocked up. You know what I mean? They're knocked out, not knocked up. He hasn't been healthy, is my point. He's been knocked up. And then you have Taylon Green, who has been a little iffy. Boise struggled with North Dakota a lot of that game. They opened it up in the 4th. And I don't know that I'm all the way in on Boise, especially when I watched the Wyoming Cowboys with their backup quarterback push Texas to the brink in the 4th quarter of that game. Was 10-10. And you look at what else Wyoming's done. They beat the Texas Tech Red Raiders and Portland State. They're 2-1. And I'm really impressed with the line of scrimmage for the Cowboys. Colorado State, I also think, is probably better than what people think. They almost knocked off Colorado, probably should have. And they got destroyed by Washington State in the opener. Okay, 2 Power 5 losses. They had a bye week 2. I think they're going to go to Murfreesboro and win this week against Middle Tennessee. But I do think they should be mixed in the contender spot. San Diego State is a team that I think is not a contender this year. I don't think they have the offense. They might still make a bowl, but I don't think they're a true contender this year. San Jose State, though, I think is, despite them being 1-3, that schedule is fucking brutal. And when your 3 opponents from a year ago all had double-digit win seasons, I can't, really give you too much of a hard time because 2 were Power 5s and 2 of those were on the road. So Toledo was on the road. They did host Oregon State, but I think San Jose State is still a contender. New Mexico, no. Maybe they get a couple more wins. I don't know, but they're not a contender. I don't even think Utah State, after watching the first 2 weeks, I thought Utah State might contend. Not after watching Air Force last week. I think Utah State could still find themselves in a bowl, but I don't think they're contenders. UNLV is interesting. That's one of my top 10 locks. I'm on the under. That Vanderbilt game was absolutely batshit crazy. We're going to talk about that in a second, but I don't think they're contenders, but they could win. There is a path where they could get to a bowl. But once again, they got to win. They got to hit 7 wins to hit the over. Which I still think is unlikely, but a little more because I had Vandy winning that game. So my point with all of this is that I think there's Air Force, who I think is still a contender. There's San Jose State, contender. Colorado State, I still think is a contender. Wyoming, contender. Fresno, favorite. Obviously, they won the Mountain West a year ago. And Boise. You have a 6-team race. And you have a critical game on Friday night when Air Force heads to, what do they call this? Spartan Stadium, but they call it some other bullshit now. Syracuse Stadium or some shit like that. Last time they played, San Jose State won 17-6. That was the year that San Jose State won the Mountain West in the COVID season. So the main thing that stands out for me from that season is San Jose State's defense was a lot better then than now. San Jose State's defense lost a lot from a year ago. If anything, the San Jose State offense is better this year than it was in 20. But this game's Friday night. Right now, San Jose State's a 3.5 point dog, plus 150 on the money line. I think they're live, even with the Lockhart injury of out for the season. I think it's a game. I know I ate shit on Air Force last season. I am a little bit concerned that Air Force's run game might be a problem for San Jose State, because I don't think San Jose State's as good defensively as they've been in the past couple of years. But I think Chevin Cordiero can really be a problem for Air Force, even though Air Force's defense has been fantastic. So I'm excited to watch this matchup. Air Force has been, Zach Larrier is their starting quarterback, and he's been pretty solid. They've been and look, he told me they're going to be passing the ball more. Maybe that's true. Troy Calhoun said, Colby, we're going to be passing the ball more this year. He was 3 of 4 for 84 yards against Utah State. So maybe one more fucking pass against Sam Houston State. He was 1 of 3 for 14 yards. So I love Troy Calhoun, but I think he was fucking with me a little bit here. And I would love to, I got to pull up the stats from 3 weeks into the season a year ago and see if they probably passed the ball. One more time. Yeah. So he's not a liar, but yeah, obviously. And look, the fact Zarrier's been a beast on the ground. If anything, I think he might be running the ball better than Zeke Daniels was a year ago. And then you add in the fact John Lee Eldridge, a stud, but I've been pleasantly surprised with the other people that have come along. Owen Burke, picking up for where Brad Roberts left off, and same with Emmanuel Michael, the other fullback. So they have a deep backfield. It's going to be fun to watch. San Jose State on the other side. I just think this is a huge game as far as conference, because there's no more divisions in the Mountain West. This is a gigantic game as far as who's going to get to the Mountain West championship. You look at some of the other schedules, because with them no longer having divisions, you could still have a scenario. I know sometimes people think because you get rid of divisions that, we're not going to see, the 11-1 team against a 6-6 team in the conference championship game. That's not entirely true, because you look at, like, why was I high on Louisville in the ACCs? Because they don't play Clemson. They don't play Florida State. They don't play North Carolina. So there's going to be certain teams that have a benefit, an easier path. So you still might not get the top 2 teams. You might get the top 2 teams record wise, but you're not getting the top 2 teams essentially. And that's what's appealing about the Mountain West race, is there's certain teams that I think have an easier route. With Fresno, I feel like is almost a lock to play for the championship game, unless Mikey Keene gets injured or something. Knock on wood. Yeah, I just feel like this game, Air Force, San Jose State could have major implications. So I like San Jose State at home plus the 3.5. But I mean, this is another double-digit win team from a year ago. So let San Jose State's schedule to start the season fucking brutal. So maybe Air Force does have a leg up in that capacity. But let's talk about the other game going on. Boise State, San Diego State. San Diego State, I think, looks kind of like ass. You know what I mean? I think they'll still if we pull up their schedule, they're sitting there at 2-2, lost both games to the Pac-12. That Ohio win's going to look good, but they got Boise in the snapper this week. I think it's probably going to be a loss. At Air Force the following week, I think probably going to be a loss. And then in October, they do get Hawai'i and Nevada. They have 2 bye weeks because they played a week 0 game. But it's at Hawai'i, who they struggled with last year. Nevada, that will probably be fine. So then in November, it's what? Utah State, Colorado State, San Jose State, Fresno State. It's going to be hard to get to 6. Like I see, okay, let's say they get Hawai'i, Nevada. That's 4. Let's say they get Utah State at the snapper. That would be 5. I think Brady Hoke might be on the way out, which I've been saying. Chris Peterson to San Diego State. He's a California native. You want to make a splash hire San Diego State? There's only 2 options. Urban Meyer, which I don't even know if he would take it. But I know I think he has a home in Southern California. So it's like, there's a chance there. I think it said his wife loves Southern California. And then to me, Chris Peterson's the smartest answer here. Chris Peterson, it just fits. It just fits. But yeah, I kind of think they're in trouble. Going to the air raid, the offense does not look good. The defense is still solid, running that Rocky Long defense. They're hosting Boise. Now, Boise, to be fair, hasn't looked great. And maybe San Diego State's defense can keep them in this game. Because when I watched that North Dakota game, which I laid 13.5 points on the Smurf turf, it took Boise a while. Now, North Dakota's a top 20 FCS team, but it took Boise a while to open that thing up. So maybe the Aztecs keep it close, but this is a gigantic game as far as the race in the Mountain West goes, because Boise, yes, they have a non-con game next week at Memphis. But then, they kind of catch everybody good. Like Boise's, at San Diego State, who we still think probably a bowl team, probably upper half, but barely in the Mountain West. They get San Jose, Colorado State, Wyoming, which I think are all 3 that I'd put in contention. Fresno at Fresno. Then they're home to New Mexico, at Utah State, and home to Air Force. So it's like they're pretty much getting all of the bowl teams. They don't get UNLV. That's the only one that could potentially make a bowl that we think could be a player there. So huge game going on at the snapper. San Diego State's getting 6.5 to plus 225 on the money line. I actually think you probably take the points. I think you probably take the points, even though I don't think San Diego State's going to be able to move the ball on that Boise defense. But I feel like San Diego State's defense might be able to hang tough with Boise. I don't know. I think that's one of the harder games to call group of 5 wise. Yeah, I don't know. Let's hop into Saturday's action. But before we do that, I want to tell you that the college football experience deep dive episode week 4 is brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. Yes, we're back with another week of football, and DraftKings Sportsbook is keeping us in on the NFL and college football action with great offers every single day. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Throw 5 down, $5, 5 smackaroos down on any of this week's epic matchups to walk away an instant winner. And look, DraftKings isn't even stopping there. All customers can take advantage of 2 new offers every day. Every game day this September. I can tell you, I just talked about Georgia State. I think they're live Thursday at Brooks Stadium. I talked about how I think San Jose State plus 3.5, because you got to figure San Jose will at least be able to keep it close. Utah State was a no-show. I kind of feel like San Jose can keep it close and put enough pressure on Air Force's defense with their offense. Hey, what are you doing, folks? Football is more fun when you're in on the action. So download the app now. Sign up with the promo code SGP. New customers can bet just $5 on to get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the National Football League. With the promo code SGP, the crowd is yours, people. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. We're also brought to you by the Game Time app. Look, buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be that stressful. I'm heading up to Laramie, Wyoming. God willing, 7,000 feet elevation. I'm ready to jump into Laramie and have a good time. It's one of my favorite matchups of the whole college football season. Appalachian State at Wyoming, which we'll be talking about. But look, I pull out that Game Time app and boom, it's the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater that is near you. With killer deals on last minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun that you'll be having at that very event. All right. And look, I mean, not only do you get exclusive flash deals on football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, and theater that's near you, they also have the Game Time guarantee, which means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So download the Game Time app, create an account, use that promo code CFBX for $20 off your first purchase. Once again, terms apply. Create that account, CFBX, $20 off, just like that. Download the Game Time app. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. And we're back. We had some nice weekday college football. Don't forget, we got two FCS. We got an FCS Thursday and an FCS Friday. I also host the FCS College Football Experience. So check out that. We just did a reaction show last night. Saturday's action. All right, so I grouped these up. In just group of 5 against group of 5. And then there's another group of 5 against Power 5. And then I even put an FCS that could be live against a group of 5. Let's start with group of 5 on group of 5. I'm very fascinated. Not a conference game. The conference games are more valuable, but Western Kentucky, fresh off an ass whooping from Ohio State, heads to Veterans Memorial Stadium in Troy, Alabama, where Troy won a year ago against the Tops up in Bowling Green, Kentucky, 34-27. I'm fascinated by this matchup because Troy has not been as good as I thought they would be. Western Kentucky is kind of exactly what I thought they would be, but if it was such a close game a year ago, and Troy actually could have beaten James Madison. That was like 16-14 for a long time in the fourth quarter, and Troy kept missing field goals. But they don't look as good now. As a year ago, obviously they won the Sun Belt a year ago, but I kind of think the Hilltoppers are going to give them a pretty good game. Troy's a 3.5 point favorite. Veterans Memorial Stadium. I think it's a big time game. I'm excited that this is on the schedule, even though they don't reside in the same conference. And I've also lobbied that I think if the Sun Belt was to expand, the first option should be ECU, of course, but I also think the other appealing teams would be like Western Kentucky, potentially, maybe Middle Tennessee, maybe Jacksonville State. So stuff like that, right around there. But yeah, this game's pretty fascinating. And you look at the Troy, their 2 losses are to James Madison, Kansas State. And they were in the JMU game. The K-State game, it got away from them. And Gunnar Watson's still their quarterback. I know some people say that they just don't look right. I think they're going to be still a contender. I still think they're a contender. But we got to see improvement because they were in that game. That loss to JMU is going to hurt. It's going to hurt. So the margin for error, because I believe, they have to play South Alabama, and I still think in conference, which I mean, I guess this game doesn't matter as far as their conference race, but they have to go to Atlanta to Georgia State, where before we thought that was kind of like a bye week. Now you're like, oh shit. And Texas State. How did I forget Texas State when I was talking about the Sun Belt race? Because GJ Kenny has the Bobcats absolutely rolling. They might be the favorite. I can't believe I forgot to mention them before. I have South Alabama versus App State. I still feel like that's a decent play. But if it's going to be anyone else, I don't think it's Troy. I think it's Texas State that could be in the Sun Belt Championship playing, App State, Coastal, Marshall, anyone but JMU. But yeah, how did I forget that? My apologies, audience. I meant to hammer that Texas State angle because they're looking fucking fantastic. That looks like, short of Deion Sanders, that looks like the best hire of the offseason, GJ Kinney. But yeah, with Troy, I have a lot of question marks. I think this game's fantastic. I like it on the schedule. Let's move along. Georgia Southern's at Ball State. I think Georgia Southern should win this game, but Ball State, probably a little bit better than what their record indicates because they played the whole SEC to start their season with losses at Kentucky and at Georgia. They beat the piss out of Indiana State, a in-state rival, a week ago. I think Ball State could give them a game. Yeah. The sharp in the chat. I'm embarrassed that I forgot Texas State for a second there because I have a note here. Hammer Texas State. I think they're all of a sudden you got to put them in contention. The Sun Belt is fantastic, by the way. All right, it is absolutely fantastic. I love Texas State on the come up because you add that to the mix of what everybody else is, and this conference is amazing. It's very amazing. But yeah, anyway, back to my point. Yeah. I think Troy's got a much harder road than we thought. So it's a huge game out of conference. It's not there's bigger games that are within conference, but yeah, anyway, Georgia Southern's at Ball State. And I think Southern just needs to not be asleep at the wheel. I thought Southern was the better team against Wisconsin if they could take care of the ball. They were moving the ball up and down the field much better than the Badgers were. They just turned the ball over. Davis Brin did it every other play. So there's that. That's an intriguing matchup. I think Southern should be okay. I think Southern should win that game, but you got to worry about the letdown spot. You just went on the road to Madison. And if Brin doesn't protect the ball well, Ball State will beat you because they're good. They're good enough. I think Ball State will probably still end up a bowl team. We got the Roswell Bowl. Yeah. What other podcast is talking about the Roswell Bowl? New Mexico at UMass. Minutemen should have got their second win of the season last week against Eastern Michigan. Eastern Michigan a terrible tackling attempt by their cornerback. Or that game probably would be, UMass walking away with a dub. I think UMass gets their second win here, but they need to stop fucking around. I feel like they've been in some of these games and they get stagnant on offense. So I think this game's intriguing. I know you might laugh at this game. I think it's intriguing because, New Mexico's coach, Danny Gonzalez, my guy, I like Danny Gonzalez, but he's coaching for his job here. They just lost the Rio Grande rivalry. And it's a big opportunity for them to hit the over. It makes this game compelling because if you're on the over on UMass, you're still looking all right. They have like some FCS opponents later. But if you're on New Mexico, the over, you need this win. This is a win you need. You got the Tennessee Tech win. This could be win number 2, and you really need this win. Fascinating game here. I want to talk about, and there's some conference games going on with actual meaning, but they're kind of blowouts. Ohio's at Bowling Green. I think you lay the points. I think Ohio's the real deal. I think it's like 9.5 points. I think you lay that thing. Western Michigan is at Toledo. Now, Western Michigan played with Iowa better than I thought. Those are 2 MAC games, obviously MAC on MAC. So like that matters. And those are the 2 favorites to win the conference. Odds wise, Toledo's like a 20-point favorite. I don't know what to make of that one because the Broncos are a little bit better than I thought they would be. I know some people are saying hammered Toledo -20. Maybe you're right, but I definitely I trust the Ohio play against Bowling Green a little more, even though Toledo's at home as opposed to Ohio heading to Bowling Green, Ohio. Those are two interesting games going on there. Rice at South Florida. This one, I want to make sure I watch this game. So I'm going to be on the road in Wyoming. So I'm probably going to have to watch this on like Monday or Tuesday, but Rice is 2-1. They played Texas a lot better than what people thought. I was on Rice as a 10-point dog against the Houston Cougars, and they won in overtime in a fucking wild game. Now they head to Raymond James Stadium to take on South Florida. South Florida, I think people might overreact to the Alabama game and say, well, they're there. I think Rice is the better team. I think this stadium won't be packed because no one gives a shit about South Florida football because their campus is like an hour away. I think Rice is going to beat South Florida in the Big Sombrero or whatever they're calling that thing now. But I'm excited because I think Rice could be a player in that conference. You look at Frank Harris. We don't know his injury status. He might play against Tennessee, but UTSA and Tulane have injuries at their quarterback. I know Pratt came back, but still it's a story that I think we got to continue to pay attention to. So you have SMU, who might be the second or third best team. And I think everyone would say Tulane's the team to beat. FAU, who everyone thought would contend with Tulane, just lost Casey Thompson for the season. So quarterback injury is becoming a big factor in this conference race. And you look over at Rice and you say, well, North Texas is a lot worse than what we thought. Who can benefit the most on this? What team is in position? I thought East Carolina. No, I think Mike Houston might get fired. I think it's the Rice Owls that could benefit of the mediocrity that is in, Charlotte's not there yet as much as Biff Poggi wants to slam his hand down. And maybe they're a little bit better than the expectations of what Charlotte could be, but they're still not there as far as like contending. What team could sneak up and contend in the AAC? Memphis. We haven't really seen them play anybody. Arkansas State and Bethune-Cookman are terrible. That the Navy win looks all right, but Navy also had them on the ropes a little bit. And I think Rice is that real team that could sneak up. Tulsa looks like, there's so many teams in transition that look like shit. Tulsa's terrible. So watch out for the Rice Owls. If they can go in and it gives opportunity for USF. If Golesh has got USF going, I know they lost to Western Kentucky, but that game doesn't matter. They're getting better each and every week. They could be the ones that benefit off this. So something to pay attention to on the group of five front. In the AAC, Central Michigan's heading into South Alabama. Central Michigan schedule is fucking bananas. Jim McElwain, I know he sent an email that somehow I got an email apologizing for CMU's performance last year. I just don't know where these wins are coming from. You've already got losses to Michigan State, Notre Dame, and now you're playing South Alabama, who was a double-digit win team a season ago. The only good thing is that South Alabama just beat the shit out of Oklahoma State and Stillwater. Maybe it's a letdown spot for them. I still think South Alabama is going to deal CMU a loss. Liberty at Florida International. Let's talk about this one because the CUSA race, Jamie Chadwell is ahead of schedule at Liberty. In my opinion, they are super impressive. And Mike McIntyre's 3-1 and he probably should be 4-0. They did a quarterback change, went to the more mobile quarterback, and you are seeing great coaching happening right before your fucking eyes. Mike McIntyre, underrated head coach. FIU's catching 10 at Ricardo Silver Stadium. You got to take Liberty, I think, but I don't know. Like this game is suddenly turning into maybe the top CUSA game of the season. I know that sounds ridiculous. I thought New Mexico State. Now we'll talk about New Mexico State in a minute, but Western Kentucky could still be that team to beat besides Liberty, but FIU, like I said, go back to their one loss against La Tech. They were up for 59 minutes of that game. They could easily be 4-0 right now. Sign me up for that one. Let's go. The airport, making noise. Hangar 5. Nobody comes into the tarmac and gets a dub. So watch out, Flamin' Libs. Can't wait to watch that game. Fuck you. All right. If you're not watching that game. All right. What do we got here? Eastern Michigan taking on Jacksonville State. I'm intrigued because Eastern Michigan got very fortunate to beat UMass. I think Jacksonville State will probably beat them. Nevada at Texas State. I think Texas State's going to make a point and put up another 50 burger on the Nevada Wolfpack, even though Nevada looked better against Kansas. Colorado State at Middle Tennessee. It's funny. I was talking to Stack of the Money Green, and he was high on Middle Tennessee's spot. Emotional game. Colorado State loses, gives up a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter to their in-state rivals, and now they got to head to Murfreesboro, Tennessee. But Jay Norvell tweeted something out that I think he said the next morning, 7 a.m. after that loss, his guys were up and hungry, and I think Norvell's the right guy to fix Colorado State. I was telling Patty C, we were watching the Rocky Mountain Showdown. I give it a year. I think in a year, maybe, Colorado State will be in a spot where I think they'll be consistently battling from the rankings. Well, my rankings of 20th to like 50th every single year. Because Colorado State's got money behind that program. I think Norvell's a great coach, and I think he's building it the right way. So I think they're going to be good. I like Colorado State to go into Murfreesboro, even though Middle Tennessee stock still fucking always underrated. They should have beaten Missouri. It's going to be a game. That's a low key good game, but I got CSU winning this one in Murfreesboro at Johnny Red Floyd Stadium. I love this next matchup here, Appalachian State, Wyoming. I'm going to this game because this is, to me, this is college football, man. You can have all your other shit. This is awesome. It makes me think, if you watch FCS college football back in the early 2000s or late 90s, App State and Montana had a bunch of games back and forth. I feel like Montana went to Boone and App went to Missoula in the FCS playoffs. This kind of reminds me of that. And this game's going to be on CBS Sports Network, by the way. But App State, these teams did play in 2015 when Bowl just got there, I think. And App State fucked them up in Boone. But I actually think Wyoming has the edge here. Obviously, they play at the highest elevation in college football. So App State's got to go up there. This is a fascinating game. This is just perfect to me. This is college football. App State, Nate Noel's leading the nation in rushing. My fantasy running back, he's a stud. And they could easily be 3-0 here. Their one loss was in overtime at North Carolina. They beat my Pirates by 15 last week in a crazy game because they stormed back after being down 2 scores in the second half and got the dub. And I feel like this team's gotten a lot better. So they originally started Ryan Berger, a redshirt freshman at quarterback. That he got injured, but Joey Aguilar came in, and I think Aguilar has looked better despite he did turn the ball over some against ECU. And that's what I worry about. This will be his first. I guess he got the road start at Chapel Hill, but you gotta understand that's a wine and cheese crowd where I feel like some App fans actually show up to Chapel Hill. This one, you're going cross country to a live environment. And that's why I like the Cowboys in this spot, but I'm fascinated by this matchup because Wyoming has been fantastic on the line of scrimmage. I thought offense and defense. That's what App's been. That's their history. How did they beat A&M? It wasn't them throwing the ball over the field. It's, they were giving it to Cameron Peoples and Nate Noel, and they were having success. And Dietrich Harrington. So I think this game is awesome. You're going to really get to see the battle of the line of scrimmage. I think Wyoming is for real. I was super impressed with their performance against Texas. Remember, they didn't have their starting quarterback, Andrew Peasley, and that thing was 10-10 in the fourth. Shit, if you could make the argument if that game was in Laramie, Wyoming would have won that game. So this matchup is fantastic to me. This is just, to me, everything that is college football great about college football. And I could see either team winning it. I'm leaning Wyoming because I feel like they always have a great home field advantage. It's windy as fuck up there, so it's a kicking nightmare. And also you have the altitude. I think it's one of the hardest places. There's a reason why we were on Wyoming money line against Texas Tech. And I think I can go back even further than that. When Missouri played there a couple of years ago, I was like, Wyoming's going to fuck them up. And they did. It's one of the harder places. So fascinated by that game. And other group of 5 games that I have noted down here. Buffalo at Louisiana. What is happening with the Buffalo Bowl program? They made a bowl a year ago. I was starting to think Lindquist was better than what I thought initially when they hired him. Now they look like the bottom 5 team in the FBS. The Lance Leipold days are over. Louisiana bounces back, beats the piss out of UAB. They needed that one. I think you got to take Louisiana to get it done against Buffalo there. JMU heads to Logan to take on Utah State. This game is intriguing to me because JMU's had 2 close wins in a row. Utah State didn't show up in Colorado Springs. It's the only way I can break it down. And one of the more perplexing things was how bad the offensive line for Utah State was against Air Force. This was really very hard for me. I lost a lot of money on that game, mainly because I had seen Utah State's offensive line take on Iowa week 1. And I was rather impressed with the O-line. I was like, so considering it's Iowa, who I think is always great on the long line of scrimmage, I thought Utah State would be able to cover. I actually thought Utah State was live. I thought they should have been favored, but I ate shit on that one. It makes me rethink and it seemed like they might have a quarterback controversy in Logan. Well, JMU is very good on the defensive line, maybe even better than Air Force. So that makes me wonder about this game. Maybe they just didn't show up, but I tend to think that JMU is going to fuck them up. If they play like they did last week, JMU is going to fuck them up. If it's the Utah State from the first 2 weeks, we should have a great game out in the mountains there. I don't know. It's going to be fun though. So either way, I think that game, something to note. Patty C was originally going to go to this game. I think he got a little scared of the going to Maverick Stadium and taking on those fans that are batshit fucking crazy. UNLV's at UTEP. UTEP dumpster fire. Dana Dimmel, with all due respect, I think should be out. I think they should be talking. I've already said this. They should be talking to Nick Rolovich. That's the guy. Nick Rolovich. They should go get Nick Rolovich. It's Texas, so who gives a fuck? You know what I mean? Like, okay, he didn't want to get a fucking shot. Who cares? He's a great football coach. He cares about people. He's a good guy. We've had him on the show before. I think they should call Nick Rolovich. I think they should call, there's a slew of coaches. Bronco Mendenhall would be on that list as well. Because I think that's a job that could win eventually. There's no one else out there that far west. But all of a sudden, on our UNLV preview, I had UTEP beating them in the Sun Bowl. Now I'm after watching UNLV, who I do think is a little bit better than I thought. I still think I like my under, but I think UNLV is going to win at the Sun Bowl come Saturday, and love that setting. One of the best places to catch a college football game, but UTEP I'm out on. Southern Miss is at Arkansas State. Southern Miss needs to jump back on track if they want to go bowling. That's a must-win game. Kent State will get rolled by Fresno. Let's talk about Fresno. They could go undefeated. They could be. Let's look at Fresno's schedule because I think they're the one team now. I heard someone else talking about this. That the group of 5s lost. Tulane lost to Ole Miss. South Alabama lost to Tulane. Troy lost to K-State and JMU. Who could be that group of 5 to go undefeated in the New Year's Six? Well, first off, the Flaming Libs of Liberty have like the easiest schedule. So odds wise, I would set them as the top team. But Fresno has 2 Power 5 wins at at Purdue and at Arizona State. A good FCS win against a good opponent. And now actually I think they can kind of hit cruise control the next 2 weeks because Kent State and Nevada should be easy wins for Fresno. And then they'll be sitting at 5-0 heading into the biggest game of their season, perhaps when they head to Laramie on October 7th. After that, it is a back-to-back away at Utah State. That is a tricky back-to-back away game because I still think Utah State's good enough. And I think the fact that it's just back-to-back away there, it's a slippery spot. Then they're home to UNLV Halloween weekend. I think they should beat UNLV, but you never know. Then they get Boise at home. They're at San Jose, home to New Mexico, and at San Diego State. They could do it. They could make that run to go undefeated. It's going to be fascinating to watch. Jeff Tedford, the most underrated coach in America. Other games of note: New Mexico State at Hawaii. As you well know.
It's a hard ticket to Hawaii. It's not paradise all the time. It's a hard ticket.
This is a huge game as far as win totals go, folks. New Mexico State is 2-2. I locked them up over 5.5 wins. I also locked up Hawaii over, was it 3.5 wins? I think it was, or 4 wins. Should go back and check my ticket. Hawaii's 1-3. I mean, the good thing is that one of these teams will win a game and one of my overs will look better. One of them will not. I tend to think that Hawaii will win this game, but I feel like this is going to be a very close game. Jerry Kill is he lost to UMass in a game that I thought they could win. They should win. Right. So I'm like 1 win off of where I should be. They beat New Mexico, which I thought would happen in the Rio Grande rivalry. They lost at Liberty, which I forecasted, and they beat Western Illinois. So they're basically 1 win off from where, but I'm not panicking. They're 2-2. If they win what 4 more games, we're good. If they win on the island this weekend, we're down to 3 games, and their remaining schedule has some very winnable games. It also, I mean, they have UTEP still in the schedule. They have La Tech, which I would favor them. That's 2 teams I would favor New Mexico State. They also have other outings against the airport, Sam Houston State, Middle Tennessee, Jacksonville State. Those are all going to be tough, but all you got to do is win one of those. Critical game though this weekend on the island, and then you look at the Rainbow Warriors, who are 1-3, but I think, man, they were in that Vanderbilt game. They were somewhat in that Stanford game. Yeah, they got their ass whooped against Oregon and Eugene, but I think this team is probably a little bit better than their record. I don't worry about them. They still have, look, if they got to get the 4, they have 1. Remember, they play 13 games. Oh, look at Noah there. Fresno State plus, what is that? Plus, you see it if you're watching youtube.com/the college football experience. I'm quickly, was that 190,000? To get to the CFP. Let's go. But the Rainbow Warriors, they still have like very winnable games. New Mexico's on the schedule still, right? Nevada, I think they could beat UNLV. Those UNLV road games are not that's not a daunting place to go into. So don't hit the panic button yet. Even if the Rainbow Warriors lose the New Mexico State game, if anything, I think I'm leaning who I want to win, New Mexico State. If I was to set a line, I would still put Hawaii as a short favorite, as they are currently a 3-point favorite. 190-1. There we go. That was a lot easier. I couldn't count how many zeros. I was like, how many? There we go. Then we have, okay. So those are the group of 5 on group of 5. The best group of 5 P5 matchup. And I see the chat. Shout out to Terry. What do you think of the over on the Rice South Florida game? Let's talk about that one. Let me go find that over. 58.5. I actually think I'd lean under, man. I actually think I would lean under. The main thing is what? It's supposed to rain again on the East Coast, right? Isn't there a hurricane coming or something? Then you have the fact that I do think Rice is probably a little bit better defensively. So Rice gave up 41 to Houston, but that game went to double overtime, right? Houston, I think's offense is better than South Florida's. So I actually think I lean under. South Florida runs a lot with their quarterback too. So give me the under. I'd rather play the game though. I'd rather play Rice just minus the points than the total. I have a few others, games. The Iron Skillet. That's the top group of 5 P5 matchup, even though we know SMU will be in the ACC a year ago. So I actually think SMU. Yeah. There we go. I think that number. Brian in the chat agreeing with me too. Folks, you can watch us youtube.com/the college experience. But SMU TCU, this game is a must see game this weekend, mainly because of the hatred. This is the battle for the Iron Skillet. And this TCU recently announced that they're no longer going to play SMU. So the contract I think runs out after next year. So SMU joining the ACC now, just ponied up $100 million in like an hour. It felt like, who cares? They don't care about money. Watch out. SMU is going to be a powerhouse in a couple years. Watch out. But you have this hatred here. They're fighting over recruiting territory within Dallas. You know, TCU's in Fort Worth, 15, 20 minutes up the road. Shout out to Matt in the chat. Let's go. But this game is just hatred. It's perfect. It's perfect. It needs to be back on the schedule moving forward. They need to fix this. But fascinated to watch that game. I think that's the top ones. I did make a list of and I think that's the most likely upset out of all of them. I think that's the most likely upset. I'll take SMU. You know, I think they're live against TCU, even on the road. If I had to pick another one, though, it'd probably be the Memphis Tigers taking on Missouri. Now, Missouri's Brady Cook, their quarterback's out. Patty C's boy Garcia might get the start, the former Miami transfer. This is at that filthy dome that the Rams used to play at in St. Louis that they should never, for the Battlehawks play or whatever there. Stupid game. But I mean, they should have just played this on campus, but I do think that's a tricky spot because I thought Missouri, shout out to their win against K-State and shout out to me who's on the Missouri over, but they looked very fortunate to beat Middle Tennessee. They got very fortunate to beat Middle Tennessee the week prior, and even the K-State game a little bit. So they're 3-0, but they could easily be 1-2. Memphis could bite them, especially without their starting quarterback. I think Memphis could be live in that filthy dome. Army. Speaking of filthy domes, Army, Syracuse. I actually think Syracuse is going to handle them because I like the Rocky Long get that Army that Syracuse did in the offseason. But I'm intrigued by this matchup because Army just won at UTSA. I know Captain Harris, Frank Harris wasn't healthy, but that's a fascinating one too. Virginia Tech heading to Huntington, West Virginia, take on Marshall. Marshall's a 7.5 point favorite. What in the hell is happening? I think the Hokies cover, but I think Marshall wins. Marshall's going to be ready. This place will be lit, and the Sun Belt will add another P5 win to that resume. Fascinated by that matchup. Here's another angle of that is if Grant Wells is healthy and he plays, that's his old school Marshall. It's personal. It's personal. Sam Houston State at Houston. Super intrigued by this matchup. After watching every snap of the Houston games for the past 2 weeks, they're an up and down team. So if they come out, they can deal you a lemon at any time. And Sam Houston State, you know, this is a little brother angle. Sam Houston's defense has been fantastic to start the season. Their offense has been the problem. Can their offense find success against a Houston defense that hasn't been great? Potentially. Fascinated by that matchup. UTSA, Tennessee. I know GBO was talking about this. He's scared of this matchup a little bit. I'm not as scared of it. I think UTSA's lost some key guys from a year ago, and then obviously Frank Harris isn't 100%. So maybe just because I don't know if I'm sold on Tennessee, that UTSA can keep it close, assuming if Harris plays. If he doesn't, I don't think they have a shot at all. Duke at UConn. We thought coming into the year this could be a slippery spot. UConn loses their starting quarterback Fagnano for the season. They don't look very good. Maybe they cover, but I think Duke will be fine at the wrench where everyone gets twisted. Florida Atlantic, Illinois, I thought would be a better game. Casey Thompson out for the year. I think Illinois is going to roll them. La Tech, Nebraska. I think that'll be fine. Nebraska will still roll them. There's a few others on the slate we'll talk about before we get out of here, but wanted to tell you that the college football experience is brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets. Yes, win bigger by betting smarter this NFL season with Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting analytics platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Research every NFL, NBA, MLB, and soccer bet with historical stats and data. Stop betting in the dark and join over 30,000 users researching Hall of Fame Bets to craft more intelligent, data-driven parlays. All right. So download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com. Use that promo code SGPN to get 50% off your first month today. Start researching, start winning with Hall of Fame Bets. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Yes, Underdog Fantasy has a way to play along your favorite football season or your favorite football team all season long. You can win up to 20 times the amount of money you enter in a single game by going 5 for 5 on your picks. It's a fantasy game, but you can win real money. So watch along, make picks, and maybe make a little extra cash over on Underdog's mobile app or website, underdogfantasy.com. When you sign up with the promo code SGPN, Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code SGPN. Next up, I wanted to talk about before we get out of here. Yeah. So La Tech, Nebraska, the old Troy Edwards game, Tim Rattay is back on the schedule. I think La Tech really fucked up by sending Skip Holtz out of town. If anything, ECU needs to give Skip Holtz a call because they don't look like a very good team. They're not good. They're not good. I think Nebraska will take care of work, or I think you should probably lay the points. Akron at Indiana. Akron still looks like shit. My over is going to be a sweat. Tulsa, Northern Illinois. I think NIU should get back on track. But this game was fucking crazy a year ago. Who knows? Miami is heading to Temple, the link, where there'll be 12 people at this game. I don't think Temple's good enough. I think Miami will fuck them up. Charlotte at Florida. I know Florida's got players suspended from the fight. I don't think Poji's got the 49ers there yet. UAB looked like shit last week. Now they got to go to Georgia. That game's useless. Those are all the matchups against the P5. FCS on FBS. There's 4 games. Nichols at Tulane, Delaware State at Miami, Ohio, Texas A&M Commerce at Old Dominion. I don't think any of those teams stand a chance. Unfortunately for me, the one team that could win, if there's an FCS team that could win, it's Gardner Webb as they head into East Carolina, because Gardner Webb is a good school. And if East Carolina does not, Mike Houston will be fired if he loses this game. But yeah, ECU gets their first win. That's a sneaky game though. Watch out for the running Bulldogs. Before we get out of here, I did want to highlight a game that I feel like should be talked about more. And it's a shame because these teams might be. They probably don't deserve to be talked about by me on this very show just because I'm talking about group of 5s. But Oregon State's at Washington State. In my opinion, College Game Day should be there, or Big Noon Kickoff. They should be there. This game is on Fox, nationally broadcast. Thankfully, it's not on the Pac-12 network where you need a fucking you need Russian television or something to watch it. But this game's awesome, and I think these teams are really good. I think they're really fucking good. I think Washington State is way better than what I thought coming into the season. The Arbuckle hire is way better than I thought. I knew Dickert would have the defense playing good ball, but Cam Ward's a fucking stud. And I think Wazoo is a legit contender. I don't think 7-win team, 6-win. No, I think Wazoo is better than Colorado. I think Wazoo is better than UCLA. I think they are a legit contender to win the Pac-12. Oregon State, I came into the season thinking they're a legit contender. So I know DJU didn't look the great. He had his first shakier performance, I would say, against San Diego State, but San Diego State's got a good defense. This game's fascinating. They're both in the top 25. Oregon State, Jonathan Smith, I think, is one of the more underrated coaches in America. And Jake Dickert too. So this game going on Martin Stadium. This line opened up at 2.5. I see it at 3 now. Personally, I think Wazoo's live. I think Wazoo actually, based upon what I saw last week in that San Diego State game, and I watched every play, I think Washington State right now, the fact it's in Pullman, I think because they're kind of dead even to me, but the fact it's in Pullman, I think I favor Wazoo. I think the line is off. I think I would favor Wazoo to get this done. It's going to be a fascinating game because Oregon State loves to pound the rock. And you got to wonder, but Wazoo did a great job on Wisconsin's run game. Only gave up 1 yard or 1 carry over 20 yards, I think, or 1 carry over 10 yards. I think the whole game. So if they can do that to Oregon State and make DJU beat you, on the other side of the ball, Oregon State's defense, the top Pac-12 defense a year ago, not Utah. Everyone thinks it's Utah. It was Oregon State. Cam Ward has been playing mistake-free football, and Arbuckle, the former Bailey Zappi, offensive assistant, who was with Zappi at Houston Christian and Western Kentucky. He schemes teams up, man. So I think this is a fascinating game. This is a fucking fascinating game. I think it's the best game of the whole weekend. Take this game over Ohio State, Notre Dame. Let's go. One of them, look, okay, Big Noon Kickoff, go to Ohio State, Notre Dame. The other, go to this. or vice versa. One of them should be in Pullman for this game. Give me Wazoo on the upset, but I'm fascinated by this game, and I have the over on Oregon State. Now I still think I'll be fine for the win totals, but this game is just excellent. It's the best, arguably the best game of the weekend. All right, folks, that's our show. All right, noontime, big noons. This is the college football experience. We're gonna be back tomorrow with the DFS show. We're doing it a little earlier because I'm flying out to Wyoming, but we're gonna be out tomorrow. No, so we'll be out of the office Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. I'm still gonna hit you with a reaction show and a pregame show from the hotel. But tomorrow we got the DFS show scheduled for noon. Talking DFS for college football week 4. Then tomorrow night we have the week 4 preview and picks with Patty C and NC Nick. NC Nick will also be on the DFS episode. Thursday we got the weekend bombs with CJ Sullivan. And Thursday night with the Gulf Coast Guru, we got the FCS week 4 preview and picks. Friday I'm out of town, getting the fuck out. Flying to Denver, getting in a car and going to Wyoming. If you're in the area, hit us up. Buy you a beer. If you're in Laramie, might stop by Fort Collins also. So hit us up. Buy you a beer. Come out to the game. Support college football. All right, folks. Next week we also have a shit ton of college basketball content starting to drop starting next week. And as well as Noah in the chat, don't forget about the Big 12 experience Tuesday and Thursday as well. So you know I'm not here. You got the Big 12. It's the Big 12 to quote Dan Hawkins. All right. Backyard Brawl. They're going to be talking about that shit. You better believe they're going to be talking about it as they upset the West Virginia Mountaineers. I don't even know if they upset it was an upset at the beginning of the week and then they became favorites. So I don't know, but they beat their hated rivals. Eat shit pit, as they say. So check out the Big 12 experience. I also host the FCS college football experience. The college basketball experience. Like I said, we're starting to do conference previews next week. All right. Next week, we will start previewing some conferences. We're going to preview 31 conferences by November 6th. Buckle up, motherfuckers. But also check out the college baseball experience with myself and Noah Beanick when that comes in full swing. And check out the sports gambling podcast. Check out the Bottom Line Bombs, all those good podcast. And folks, yeah. Get the SGPN app. It's free to download in the App Store and Google Play Store. And come talk college football with us. FCS, FBS doesn't make a difference to us in the Discord or college hoops. All right, any sport really. It could be fucking the game of darts going on at your local bar in fucking Belfast. We got you covered. All right. SportsGamblingPodcast.com/Discord. Until next time, folks. This is the college football experience. You better start thinking about yours. And we out of here.
Run and shoot. We can really run and shoot.